You're listening to Creative Campfire, where creatives like you come to talk shop, share stories, and light the path for one another. Whether you're here to learn, grow, or just feel a little less alone, welcome to the fire. I'm so excited today to bring this amazing guest to you all. She is a powerhouse. Not only does she have the most incredible creative eye when it comes to light and shadows and compositions, but she's also been living in a few places. She's been in Texas and Massachusetts, Michigan, Indiana, Kentucky, North Carolina, Utah. I met her when she lived in Northern California, and now she's back in her home state and city of Detroit. Welcome, Amanda. Boop, 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 boop. This is Amanda J. Cain. She is a badass sports photographer. And if you have not, go and peek at her work because it will blow your mind. I know that it blew my mind so much that I reached out to her and was like, we have to meet. Like, how did I not know that you at the time was the lead head photographer for the Sharks in San Jose? And she was throwing down some really cool shit. And she is a huge component of throwing out other people's stuff that she really loves. And that's one of the things I love about her stories. She's always sharing out really great work and of other photographers out there. So have started to follow and have met so many people because you have shared them. And I can't thank you enough for that.
Not a problem. I love to do it. Saw a couple friends do it, and I was like, well, why not? You know, there are others doing great work, more so than me, and why not share their work as well?
Well, I want to know, why sports? Why sports? How did this all happen? How does this great creative eye that you have land in the sports pool?
Well, I mean, I played as a child. I grew up watching the '04 Detroit Pistons team win a championship, senior year of high school. And it was like, why can't I be an athlete? Number one. Okay. But after, like, I realized how short I was, and it just didn't, the athletic ability didn't go far. It was like, why can't I work in sports? But before that, you had to like figure out a lane. And so that lane became obviously photography. And yeah, it was kind of the new wave of team photographers. And it's been a blast. A lot of traveling, but so far, it's been a blast, and just looking to continue that journey, and hopefully, kind of elevate the career level. Whether it's sooner or rather than later, whatever happens, whatever's meant for me. That's kind of how I take things. So, but yeah, it's been great.
Well, one of the things I think it's interesting is there's so many lanes in sport, right? So not only
Hmm.
is there like obviously being a team photographer, which is what you do and have done for many, many years now for various teams, but like you could have went and worked for a brand. You could have went and worked, for a summer camp. You could
Yeah.
have worked at a gym or all these various different avenues into sport. Like for me, when I thought about working in sport, I was like, oh, I could work in retail. I could work for a brand. I could work for a team. I could work, and then there's every division of team, right? From
Yeah.
rec youth all the way to, the pros. So I find it super cool and fascinating. It was like, oh, I know that this is the direction I want to go in. This is the lane I want to stay in. And how do you just kind of like advance down that road until, hey man, I'm the head honcho of this department. Um,
Yeah. I don't. I mean, how do you stay in it? I think that's a good question. I think for me, it's more so the fact of, being the first black female team photographer in NHL was great, right? But the continuation of like being in the NBA, where there is a little bit more diversity, not as much as you would think. Okay. So there's still that want to like be in it so that other folks can see other people that look like them and have that notion to apply for jobs, right? That's kind of the hardest part, is to be like, hey, I'm good enough at this. Why can't I do this?
Yeah.
So, the effort is to try to get more of people, more of the underdogs, I'll say that, and not just diversity and race and whatnot, more of the underdogs a chance to kind of do what I've been doing, you know what I mean? And so, with that opportunity, whether that happens sooner, great. But like, I'm all for helping folks out. I'm all for bringing, Detroiters, you know, that's been in the industry for, I don't know, multiple years, give them a shot and shoot at Media Day. Yeah. That's what I'm kind of about, because I know, um, the two guys that I'm hiring, they have worked with athletes. One of them knows the guys, and it just makes it a lot easier. I don't have to do everything. I can easily be like, you take
Yeah.
this set, you take this set, I'm on this set. And that's kind of what I've been trying to do for the past 2 years with the Pistons. It's just taking a little bit of time to be like, hey, I'm one person. If you just like let me hire freelancers, like this would be a lot easier.
And you get more
So
content, right? Things go a little bit
it, it,
faster.
it exactly.
And so speaking about kind of that managerial role, even with like, the temps or the freelancers that you're bringing in, let's talk about one thing that I know you're really passionate about, which is art direction slash creative direction.
Yep.
So is that something that you get to have a say when it comes to, like you mentioned, media day, right? Like, how are
Yeah.
we going to address it this year? How are we going to make it different than last year, or elevate it? Or maybe there's a through line. Like, do you get to have a say in that, or is that really run through marketing?
Um, yes, I get to have a say in it, especially the photography portion of it. Video portion, that is my boss, the director of production. That's their lane. But like photo wise, for the most part, between me and our creative director and art director, we've made it so we've mocked up things ahead of time so that everything was like mocked up like a month ago.
Oh, well,
So
that's cool.
yeah. Like the one thing about me, and this is kind of recent, but I'm sure you've taken the disc test. Kind of, I
Oh,
wouldn't
like
say
one
like,
of these that like not the personality tests, but
yeah,
like your leadership style tests.
yes, yeah. Like one of my things is that I like things my way. I like, like I'm very direct. I'm very like, this is the way we should do it, and I'm gonna hold firm to that. Part of doing that whole assessment was like also learning that I have an analytical side. And so the analytical side nowadays, as opposed to say 5 to 10 years ago, is more like, wow, I like to work in fast paced environments. I also like to slow down and think about things so that I'm not always reacting. You know what I mean? 'Cause I feel like sports is, very quick pace and you're
Yeah.
always reacting. So if there's ever a chance you can slow down, look at a bigger picture and be like, hey, this is what we should really not, lean towards, I'm all for that. So I think that's the biggest kind of lesson I've learned over the last couple of years, is like, you can do more, but be more efficient and and how you're planning these things, because this is, well, will be my sixth media day, fifth year in sports. And there's definitely some media days where the efficiency went out the window. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
because in the moment things do change, but they don't have to. So it's like, how do you manage that? How do you slow down in the moment to make things, kind of run a little bit smoother?
Well, I think there's an interesting point there about, you can plan, right? You guys can have your
You
plan.
you
You can have
you can plan.
your,
Yeah.
you can set it up as best as you can. And
Yeah.
then, like you said, stuff happens, right? Things get shifted, or there has to be a pivot. But you're like, okay, well, we could pivot. Like, I mean, if anything else, what photographers are really good at, if you're
Is
really a
pivoting.
professional, is solution oriented, right? Like, oh,
Yep.
here's the problem, I got a solution. Here's problem B, I got a solution for that too. Um, and so I think that's it's really interesting, because I guess I would think media day is like, oh, well, we've got this. this happens here, this happens here, this thing happens over there.
Yep. Yep. I mean,
and then someone throws a curveball at you.
And that always happens. Like last year, we were supposed to have the full day at LCA, and the Red Wings had to make up a game, and so they kicked us out at 4 o'clock. So we literally had to
get out,
get through everybody quickly enough, and then get out and tear down so that they can play a damn hockey game.
Shared facilities.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a great point of like, oh, this was the thing. They didn't know that they were going to have this game when we originally set this on the calendar.
Right.
The other thing you touched on though is kind of this like uplifting others. Yeah. And I said that at the top of the talk, which is, you're always building community, you're always shutting out other people. But one of the things that, you're really passionate about is, one, talking to like people coming up in the industry, people who are interested in the industry, but also kind of like the freelance side of things of like, if you let me expand, if you let me bring in other people, can you talk a little bit about your philosophy on like mentoring and speaking and providing some hope and glimmer to the future? Even if it's hard truths.
Well, I mean, I'm really about the hard truths because a lot of the people that I have mentor are still kind of in that oh fuck mindset of like, will I ever get this chance? Right? They have part-time roles, but they really want full-time roles. And it's a hard reality nowadays because not as many teams are hiring only photographers. So the few teams that still have that, I'm trying to get more, but budgetary constraints or whatever has always been an issue. I feel like that happens for multiple organizations, not just the Pistons, not just the Sharks. It is what it is across the board. People value video, obviously, more so than photography, even though photography is very much forefront.
And it's used in way more places.
Most people are just like, oh, did we get a photo of that? Did you ask for a photo of that? Did you think about that ahead of time? No, you probably didn't. But that's the world that we live in. As far as like mentoring goes, like I usually try to tell folks, if you can get yourself to be a jack of all trades at this point in time, it's going to take you further. You know what I mean? Most people will look at a photographer who has video experience and be like, oh, okay, they can do both. So they're a good hire. For the graphics folks, you know what I mean? If you have a little bit of motion graphics in there, pretty much good hire. If you're good with AI, you know what I mean? Like there's a bridge there. So just not like leaning upon one skill. And I feel like there are a lot of photographers that are very much in this one lane that is just like, I just want to shoot sports action. And I'm like, that's no longer going to cut it. You know what I mean? Like,
right, that's only like 5% of the job now.
Right. Can you do digital asset? Can you do photo editing? You know what I mean? That's a big one nowadays because we have now the budget for a photo editor, which
amazing.
we have never had before. So, but again, it's more like, how do we make this process a little bit more streamlined than opposed to just me sending photos, not edited, and then them throwing them up on Instagram or Twitter
Right.
or X or whatever. So all of that has had to like be talked about over the past 2 years. But I think we're finally getting to a point to where, okay, we're understanding the value of it. Those younger photographers need to kind of understand that in an organization. I'll also say there are people that come out of college and are like, oh yeah, I want to work for a team. Guess what? You won't have as much creative freedom as you think. Guess what? Some teams won't even allow you to do freelancing. So when you first come out of college, test the waters. You know what I mean? Like, have a full-time job and then do photography on the side. And then if you want to do full-time freelance just to understand or dip your feet in, cool. And then once you hit that spot of, okay, I need a little bit more consistency, a little bit more balance, but I'm ready to understand what an organization needs. And then you take that step. You know what I mean? I think it's very hard to come out of college and realize, oh, they want me to do this. You know what I mean? Like it just never goes as planned
Which
when
is
people,
interesting because I would think to some regard, people coming out of college may not have like that developed style, if you will, or that developed skill set of like
right,
they're willing to take maybe that art direction or willing to do that versus, maybe after you do it a couple of years and you're like, I feel confined, right? Like I don't want to
right,
do that anymore. I want to go do the other thing.
right.
But your point of, can you shoot freelance outside of your 9 to 5, whatever, your team job, which is definitely not 9 to 5. I'm going to put a little asterisk on
No,
that.
it's definitely not.
Coming from team life, I know it's definitely not a 9 to 5 job. But when you're working for in house and there may be something in your contract that says you can't, work outside that contract, that's something to think about, especially in this day and
Yeah,
age when everything's so expensive and you want
yeah.
to have a side hustle. You may not actually contractually be allowed to do that.
Right. And that's really the hard part. I remember talking to a photographer and I was like, why'd you leave? You know, and he goes, they wouldn't allow me to do anything outside of there. That person is
Wow.
is a huge freelancer, gets lots of clients nowadays. And sometimes that's just the thing you have to learn over time. It's like, I'm better doing X, Y, and Z. Right. But then also, what people don't realize is that when you are a team photographer, the amount of skills you develop that in the future maybe you can be an art director or a creative director or a director of production, which I think there are very less photographers who actually become directors of production. There's more video people, obviously. But yeah, I mean, it's a thing that I'm trying to figure out. Like, how do you break this mode of just hiring designers for art director positions or videographers for director of production positions, right? It's like I know a little bit about all three. I went to school for design. I've worked with numerous amount of designers. Um, and for the most part, what I've learned about direction or managing is that you really just have to know how to hire those people who can get your job done. Yes, you may need to know about, oh, okay, if something goes wrong, how can I fix that, right? Troubleshooting, right? All of us photographers have that mindset. So why is it that we cannot ever get that job? That's
Right. So it's kind of like, you have these parallel paths happening and you're like,
mm-hmm.
I want to change streets, right? Like I want to put on my blinker and get in that other lane,
Yeah.
but no one's letting you over. There's a little bit of a
It
traffic
kind of it
jam
sounds like
type of
that no
thing.
one lets you over. I think again it becomes the thing of organizations, they're so focused on the marketing aspect of it. They don't think about the nitpicking of the production slash creative aspect of it, right? Like the last photographer, he really wanted to be a creative director. We already have a creative director, right? Like you know what I mean? Like, and I know that, right? And I talk to Justin on a daily basis. You know what I mean? Like, because I want him to be able to do his job. Because sometimes those people with those positions, they really fully can't do their job because someone else is trying to dictate that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like, wait, I thought you were the creative director. So
Yeah.
I
It's
understand that.
all part of the bigger pie.
You are exactly.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting, right? So if you like the example you made of this photographer that wanted to be a creative director, it's like, okay, well, you can collect all those skills while you're here. And then in order to take that opportunity, there's only one seat for that job, and that seat is
Yeah.
currently filled. So if that's what you want to go do, you got to go look elsewhere.
Or you just continue to learn under that person and, maybe something happens. You know what I mean? Like, you just never know what can happen in this industry. So that's why you always got to be prepared.
Yeah. I mean, I like the idea of, there's so much that can be learned on the job.
Hmm.
And I think that is a big part of taking the opportunity and seizing what you can when you're there. And then if
Yep.
you kind of feel like, okay, I've done this, I've learned this, I can do this now in my sleep. I watched a sports photographer actually who was on the West Coast. She worked in the NFL. And that's kind of what happened. Like she kind of hit this wall and she was there for, I don't even know, a long time, like double digits.
Mm-hmm.
And it was finally like, okay, like I'm ready for something else. I'm ready to
Yeah.
move on and do something else. And she actually left sports altogether to go do like, I think run like a retreat center somewhere. But I do think that there's this point of growth that happens that finally you're like, okay, I'm just not learning, growing, or executing that growth anymore.
Yep.
And I'm wondering why you left NHL Sharks to go to Pistons, other than to go home. Or was the NBA always the dream?
I don't think the NBA was always the dream. It was like a thing of, oh, it'd be cool to work in the NBA. But leaving the Sharks is it was hard, you know what I mean? Because I think out of organizationally, they're the ones that, initially gave me my shot. You know what I mean? I would credit Eastern Kentucky University and San Jose Sharks to the biggest kind of career moves for me. Simply because like they saw something that at the time I didn't even see. So that is where, it's got to be the people that, you know, are speaking your name in rooms that you're not even in. You know what I mean? That really like they're very important. The reason why I think was because I felt like there wasn't an up in San Jose. There wasn't a next step or and me sitting back looking at it now was like, yeah, I didn't see an up in career path. Like I feel like with the Pistons now, while it's been a struggle, at times, I have found other things that I never thought about before. You know what I mean? Like maybe most people will be like, "Oh, okay, but you were a graphic designer." I said, "Yeah, a long time ago." There's a point where I hated design, which is it's all very weird because I've kind of
Done a full circle.
done the circle and I've kind of meshed graphic design in with photography, which I've been doing all along. But again, when
But
you
sometimes you can't see what you can't see, right?
no, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like people kept telling me that, but I was just like, nah, I don't do that. You know what I mean? Like it's
You're like,
it's
because I
it's
hate
one-
graphic design, so therefore I don't do that. Even though your
again,
work is very graphic.
right. Like again, the jobs that you have, the one graphic design that I had, um, yeah, just left a sour taste in my mouth. And so I
Yeah.
think finally over it's been more than 10 years. I finally got over that. And I just kind of said, this is who I am. This is what I do. I'm not just a photographer. Because I think some people will box you in as just a photographer. Um, so I think the move from San Jose was more just a reality of one, it's California and it's very expensive, but I really can't say that anymore because we live in a world where everything's expensive now. So it's not just a California problem. But at the time it was that. It was like, I don't think
Yeah.
it's just sustainable. And then two, it was just time. There just wasn't an upward notion for me to go up. Like what I had done was great, but like it was almost like I peaked too soon. And that's what I've tried not to do here at the Pistons is like, you just work the job. You know what I mean? Until you can actually go into someone's office and be like, hey, I think I can do X, Y, and Z. That's where I'm at, right? Like I think I peaked way too soon at the Sharks and it was great. And those four are still doing amazing work with the Sharks.
Yeah.
And I still talk to them, so that's wonderful. But also it was a chance to give home an opportunity because I was gone for 13 years. And this was a team that I watched when I was younger. I grew
Yeah.
up on.
It's your hometown team.
So why not why not do it? You know what I mean? It was to start over. It was a trip back to the Midwest, which we all love and hate at the same point in time. Um, but it's home. So, yeah, I kind of took that jump, and at first, it was solid, and then it became what it is. So
A little less solid, and now it's
a,
firming up again.
a little less solid, a little, but like I tell most people, everybody, you're gonna have highs and lows. Jobs, doing everything, anything is great. Just because a person posts every week,
Yeah.
don't assume that things are great. You know what I mean?
That's the highlight
Actually,
reel. It's the highlight reel. Yeah.
it's the highlight reel, and what's very funny is that when I wasn't, like, I think I've mostly posted freelance work back in like the 2010s, and most people thought I was living a life. I wasn't making any money. I was just out here shooting photos because I loved it. You know what I mean? But I just was making no money.
It's just
And
wild, right? I mean, that happens today.
yeah,
People are like,
yeah,
"Oh my god, like that was such a great shoot," or I mean, I just had someone say to me like, "Gosh, you're so busy," and I was like, "Well, that's the perception.
that is the
Now,
perception.
whether
And
that's the reality is a different, might be a different
sometimes it
story."
is the reality, but I think we get so fascinated, especially creatives get so fascinated with what other people are putting out. But some of these campaigns are taking what, upwards of 6 months to do. So it's a grind. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of us don't understand that. You know what I mean? Like, people are just like, oh my God, you get to do X, Y, and Z. 6 months of work.
Right. Like not
Me-
every day is a shoot day.
Not every day, you know what I mean? And you're only getting paid once. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, just the realities of that is like, yeah.
Or even, you touched on this before we hit record, but recently you had a job out in California and you flew out for like 36 hours, right? So it was like you probably spent almost more time traveling than
Yep.
actually like on the ground doing the job.
Yep.
Um, and I think we as creatives, like, we forget that, that there is kind of, for those that travel and do a lot of like back and forth, whether you're in the travel industry or you're on a plane with the team going to the game, it's like you get there, you got to have like, you got to reset up everything when you're at an away game. You've got like maybe a different shot list that's
Yeah.
required, and maybe you as the photographer is like, hey, I know this is my shot list, but I also want to potentially, do X, Y, and Z when I'm here if I can. um
Yeah, I mean, anytime I travel, I usually take those opportunities to do X, Y, and Z. Because for me, unlike most folks, can't say all young folks are this way, but for me, I like to get everything done the night of. So yeah, if I'm up to 3 a.m. editing photos, cool, whatever. That leaves me time in the morning to do other stuff. You know what I mean? If there's nothing team related. So, like, everything's usually done by the night of. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of how I keep myself on top of things. And then say if one night I actually go out with people, I usually come back and finish editing. Like, that's just my mindset on that.
yeah,
You
you're like,
know,
I have to finish this so I can stop thinking about it.
I'm not even thinking about it, but it's just like, players are waiting for their images and whatnot. And so I try to uphold that standard. You know what I mean? Like, it's not my favorite, but yeah.
So when you're not at the Pistons and you're doing, I don't know, like this job we just talked about in LA,
Yeah.
what is it that you want to be doing? Not what have you done, but where would where is Amanda's, like, that future you? I'm not saying like, that might be, like you said, it might be sooner, it might be later, but like, what's that future you doing? What does that look like? Let's kind of put some visionary out there so those that are listening could be like, oh, I could help Amanda on that path.
Nowadays, I have this weird sneaker obsession. um, I'm not a sneakerhead. I will continue to say that because I cannot tell you the stories behind. these
The shoes.
sneakers. You know what I mean? But I can tell you my stories of walking in the sneakers, right? That's kind of how it all started. But more times than none, it's me thinking about me driving through the city and being like, man, could really do a cool shot. You know what I mean? So it's more art direction based. Yeah, as I told my boss, or our new boss, is that, for me, I can go a week without holding a camera. Um because season wise you're always holding the camera, or for the most part of it. But yeah, like I cannot shoot a photograph for a week. I know that sounds very weird
No,
to
but
most
I
people.
because I think your brain is occupied with other, right, this idea. Like the ideas are
Hmm.
coming. It just
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you're out executing that idea. You're just thinking through like, oh, this could be a cool idea, or this could be a cool idea, and then maybe stringing those ideas together.
Yeah. Like I think I just came up with another cool idea. It's just, how do you execute it, right? I'm always thinking about, like, let's not waste the time. Like, how can I physically execute this without wasting time? That's where my mind's at, honestly, most days.
And it's around shoes or sneakers.
Yeah, yeah. It's around sneakers. I would say I have a huge, like, retail obsession as well. Because there's a lot of stuff you see on Instagram and X and Threads, that you're just like, man, it's a cool shoe. It's a cool, like, I like it,
Yeah, I like it. I get
So
it.
how do you I mean, how do you I don't want to become a fashion shooter, I'll tell you that much, because that's a completely different lane. But the most people that I've worked with this summer come from fashion, which is very unique to me. Um, and they crossed over to sports for like maybe 6 weeks. And I was like, well, how is that? Because that's like, fashion's completely different,
Right, but
like,
they're just bringing their different eye to it. I mean, this is something that I hear on the commercial side of things, right? Where
yeah,
like I had a conversation with an art director a couple months back, and we were talking about, I can't remember what food brand it is off the top of my head, but we were talking about a particular food brand that he works for, talking about this campaign, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we really sought out different types of shooters." And I was like, "So you didn't find like a beverage or food shooter?" No, no,
no,
no, no. We went for a motorsports photographer. Like,
yeah,
okay, why? Right? Because at the end of the day, I'm like trying to understand what is the creative eye that they're looking for, because that is really the difference, right? Like a fashion photographer is going to bring a very different eye to sport than,
hmm,
like a traditional action sports photographer.
yes.
And I'm not that it's good or bad, it's just different.
It is very different, and I think, there's a job posting a couple years ago. Wow, maybe a year ago, that I was looking at. It was in Southern California, actually, and one of the things on the phone that they said was like, it's not like we're looking for an action photographer, but we're just looking for someone who has, like, the portfolio that encompasses everything. You know what I mean? Which, across the
Right? You're
board,
like you're like, well,
I I mean, and sometimes people don't actually know what they're looking for. You know what I mean? I think that's the hard part too. It's like, we just saw something at the Pistons, like, how do you rehire for a SVP of brand and marketing? Like, what exactly are the skills that you're looking for when hiring this person? You know what I mean? Like, it's a lot.
well, and it can be tough too, right? Because I
Yeah.
think certain skills are going to be more developed than other skills.
Right.
And to say like, could you have done that job that they wanted someone who literally could shoot everything? And you're like, sure, yeah. But am I going to be better at certain aspects of those shoots than others? Like,
Absolutely.
you want me to shoot little kids? Like, yeah, that's not something that might be my strong suit. Or you want me to shoot macro photography?
Right.
Oh, but
And
yeah. But you want me to shoot
that's
portraits? I could do that all day long,
right. And that's the hard part is, I think, looking at it from the opposite side of it, it's like I can kind of understand that now, because like you're looking for something, like in looking for a photo editor, like there aren't just people that have the title of photo editor, or for that factor, DIT. You know what I mean? Like
Right, like for a
I
digitech.
asked my friend, I go, do we have any in this city? You know what I mean? He goes, I just do my own, but you could probably pick up a photographer who probably knows a little bit about everything. And I'm like, okay. Mm, not what I was thinking. You know what I mean? Like if I'm going to another photographer, just in, like if I was hired to be a DIT or a grip or whatever, like probably not my strong suit. Could I do it? Absolutely. But like me being used to being on set in some capacity, whether that is shooting or whether that is directing, which I would love to direct more, and probably will try to direct more next week. I will have my career director like right next to me, but in the same sense, I'm kind of like, hey, bro, I got this. Like, he's already like, oh, do you want to do certain poses? I go, yeah, I think I know each player a little bit, and I can now like understand what their moves are in the game. And so, that's our kind of that's our relationship basically. Like he'll tell me stuff and I'll be like, yeah, maybe, maybe not.
We
Then
could
I'll tell
try
him stuff and
that.
he'll be like, nah, it's not how that works. And I'm like, okay, that's
But it's like,
cool.
but that sounds like it's a good rapport, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I could imagine like when you're with somebody and you might throw out an idea and then they just are like, what are you talking about? That would be something where, if you're constantly shut down every time,
Yeah.
that is not a fun relationship. And it doesn't allow you to be part of that creative process. But when you can like banter with each other, like, oh, what if we try this? Or what if we try that? Or, oh, I
Yep.
like that. Let's tack that onto that. Um, that is a way more fun, like collaborative environment to be in.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm excited that you're in that um, in that environment. Now
Yeah.
you made this mention um, before we hit record. Again, we had such a
Yep.
great conversation that you guys were not privy to.
Yep.
But you made this conversation. One of the things about the Pistons went from this really awful start last year to really turning it around. I mean, for those that don't know, like they are the defending champs. So there's this like limelight on them. And so does that change the direction of photography? Like, is there going to be this more like hero-esque feeling to it? Or do you guys just have like a different storyline that you're trying to stick to as like a continuation from last season?
Um, so the turnaround that was made was we went from going 14-68 in 23-24 to 44-38 in 24-25 and making the first round of a playoff. Should have won the first round of the playoff, but did not. It happens, when you have a young team and they have not been there. It happens. You know what I mean?
But hell of a turnaround. Whew.
Heck, yeah, we were all sitting here like, okay, when is the other shoe gonna drop? Like legit, like the basketball side was very much like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like
Like it
how
was
long can we keep this going?
right. Like there was an 8 game win streak in the process of it. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. Just you haven't seen since Chauncey and Rip days. But I think for me and what I've because we're on this whole process of why when you bring an idea to the table, why, what's the why, okay? And part of my set is spotlight, okay? And the reason why is because there will be a spotlight on us this year, and can we stay in that spotlight? You know what I mean? So creatively, I'm always trying to mimic as best as I can what the basketball side is doing. You know what I mean? At times you can't, you know what I mean? Like say if something happens in the locker room and you can't get it, yeah, it happens. You know what I
Right.
mean? But I'm normally in that mindset of what's going to make this team look best And sometimes the best is probably not what basketball wants to see, but it is the story. I think I did a recap of last season and the year before in a photo book. Good, bad, and ugly. You know what I mean? Like that's
Right.
the stuff that you have to show. Some people don't like it. Some people are like, "Oh, our guys are not in a good light." The
You're like,
year
well, they
before they won
weren't for then.
14 games, or they won
Yeah.
14 games. What, you know what I mean? The last page of that book is a photo of Greg Popovich, who is no longer coaching, and Monty Williams, who is no longer coaching. Um, so impactful photo, yes. For us, probably not. But that was what happened. That was how we ended the season,
Right.
by
Very
those two
documentary
coaches
style. Yeah.
embracing. Yes. So when video folks are like, the biggest struggle I feel like with producers in general is that when they switch their brain to photography, they forget everything that they do in videography, right? Which is it's the same thing. You know what I mean? Only it's a still photo, right? So while you're getting all the action, where's my bench stuff? You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it's trying to get them to understand that you're doing the same thing. It's just in a lot of stills. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you're having to pick and choose and then crop and then yeah, which is, for most people they're like, yeah, I'd rather have time, like a day or two to work on things, which is the video production headspace, versus the photo headspace where I'm just like, I'm getting this done now. You know what I mean?
I'm
Like,
telling the story. What's fresh in the
right. I'm
brain.
I'm telling the story, and I think that's the biggest difference between videography and photography, really. But the two are very similar. Like, I can shoot, as I was telling our grad associate, like, I like documentaries. I do. Here's my thing why I will never probably do one or shoot one or whatever is because of the time it takes, the tediousness. Um, And for me, I would probably go crazy with the perfectionist part of it because I would want to get everything correct. Not to say I can't shoot it. You know what I mean? It's just, yeah, it's a lot of work. And just like
But
they
you're kind
think
of, I mean,
photography is a
you're
lot of work.
in an essence though, I mean, that is essentially what you have done through your sports career is you have told a documentary, right? Like this is a
Yeah.
documentary of the season. This is the documentary of like some of your favorite stuff. My favorite stuff of yours is when you're doing kind of like players day out, right? Like
Yeah.
they're not at the court. They're not in action. They're like you're kind of seeing the sliver of life kind of behind the curtain, if you will. Like
Yep.
um and that's some of the stuff that I find like really interesting and way as a just as a human being, right? Like you were saying, oh, I couldn't be the superstar athlete either. That's why I wanted to go work in a front office. But it's like
Exactly.
they're just like, me. Like they're out listening to their music on their headphones. They're, having
Right.
lunch.
Yeah, exactly. And they are human. That's probably most people ask me nowadays. You're like, oh my God, how was it to work with Kate? And I'm just like, he's
Fine.
he's a normal guy. Okay.
Yeah.
He just gets paid X, Y, and Z more.
Yeah. He's got a
Uh,
slightly better sweatsuit than me.
and he has a really good jump shot. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
but yeah, that's kind of how I look at it. And most people are kind of like, okay. And I'm like, I guess once you've done it enough times, even with college athletes, like, especially nowadays with NIL, like, I talk to a lot of those people and they're just like, yeah, man, this is crazy. All the stuff we have to do beforehand. Like, when they come visit the campus, they got to give them a photo shoot. They got to, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of that. And I'm just like, yeah, I thought higher education is what I wanted to go back to, but not with the way things are going there. It's a lot of like extra work and not paying them for the extra work. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I mean,
I
higher
see that.
education, you don't make money anyway, but I get that, but like one of the guys that he used to be in Indiana, I think he's now at Michigan as a part of a team. And I went to go look, like I went to go ask him, what is the pay scale for the job that you
Hmm.
just left, right? For other people. And he was like 42K. And I said, what?
Yeah, for IU.
I said, you made, or you did how many sports and had how many student photographers? And your title was director of photography?
And you never had an off season. I mean,
I said,
I know
wow.
it's kind of wild. Like I
Yeah.
look at salaries and stuff, both here in the UK, which is abysmal and
Yeah.
sad.
Well, yeah.
Um, but it's also, to your point, like I've looked at like, oh, well, what if I go back to the States and if I go and work at, a collegiate, or
Yeah.
if I go and even like a front office job, doesn't pay all that wonderfully.
No.
You kind of have to know somebody, you have to have like the right thing. And, if I'm willing to eat peanut butter jelly sandwiches and maybe live in my parents' garage, I probably could pull it off. But yeah,
Yeah.
this is why like photography is not for the faint of heart.
It is not. And I applaud people for actively trying. You know what I mean? But like it literally is a clusterfuck, every other day in your mind of like, man, oh man, how? Why? You know what I mean?
But
Because,
but I think this gets back to the side hustle part, right? Like why it's so important to be able to have that freedom to do that side hustle.
yeah,
So, if you want to do portraits on the side or shoot weddings on the side, or, do another skill, maybe you want to assist or be a digitech, or, whatever who knows, maybe you want to sell crochet blankets on the
yep,
side, but it's being able to have that ability to do that. And that takes us to when Amanda is not in the photographer role at the Pistons and you're running your own Amanda J. Cain photography.
mm-hmm,
One, you gave me a little sneak peek of what's to come in the beginning of the new
yeah,
year. You want to talk about your
yeah.
rebrand?
The rebrand is, yeah, for a very long time I've wanted to update my logo. Never was in the space or the capacity to do it. And then for me, it's all about feel. It's all about like timing. Um, Saw a rebrand, or not even rebrand. Coworker created a logo for one of my other coworker for his little running program, and I was like, "Oh, are you that good at logos?"
Hey, I
And
might
I'm
need some
like,
help.
um, and then so he had me go through this whole like just brand booklet of like, and I had to like answer questions. You know what I mean?
Had
I'm
you
sitting
ever
here
done that
like,
before?
huh?
Had you ever done something like that before?
No,
Oh, okay.
no. I
So it was
mean,
a
it
little
made me
overwhelming.
it overwhelming, but like it made sense in the fact of like, well, what is my audience? You know what I mean? Like it made me think about all these things, and so in doing that, and then him coming up with this logo, um, yeah, it was like, okay, well, this can potentially be merch. I'm not saying I will do merch, but I will put fillers out to see how many people are interested in it. It'll be very limited, because this is a new endeavor, and I want to make sure like not spending a whole bunch of money. Yes, you have to spend money to make money. Yes, I understand that. But yeah, it's very weird, but I've had this notion for a good 10 years. Yeah, and it's finally coming around to where I've had enough experience versus I think I know the lane that I'm trying to achieve. And maybe that is a website branding too. That I have not decided either, but that isn't as hard as creating your own logo. That I will tell you.
Well, I hope that the logo appears on the website. So if, at the very
It
least,
will. It will.
you'll get a little mini glow up over on the website.
Yeah.
Well, that's really exciting. I can't wait to see that roll out at the beginning of the new year. And for those that want to keep up with what you're up to and follow your amazing work, where can they find you, Amanda?
Instagram, Adam and J Cain. I have a project. It's basically a weekly project. Um, and it's for the most part this summer. It's been most people think very boring because it's not basketball. Um, so it's different, but I think the biggest thing that will come out of it is a whole recap, and even maybe a coffee table booklet of every week of this year, what I posted. And it's something that not only, I mean, I don't I don't do it for followers. I don't do it for influence, whatever. I basically did it because it was a challenge to me, and most of the time I'm having fun with this.
And
you
that's
know.
really what it comes down to, right? I mean, if it's
Right,
not fun,
right,
like, why are you doing it?
Yeah, because every now and then I'm thinking, oh crap, I didn't shoot anything. So what is my weekly rollout gonna
What am
look
I going to
like?
post?
What am I gonna post? And I think that's where like the graphic design lane has helped a little bit because, with imagery you can add whether that's shapes or lines to something to make it pop, right? It's another way of storytelling. Most people don't necessarily think of it that way. But, I think graphic design has its own way of being a storytelling um agent as well.
Yeah.
You just have to understand um what people are trying to convey, which a lot of people that's why they ask questions. You know what I mean? Like it's like, well, what is this? Like you go in a gallery space and you see all this graphic design, this, it may be script, it may be something totally obscure. And you're like, well, why? The why is always a thing. It's like maybe they were feeling angry at that point in time. You know what I mean? Maybe the lines are a minimalistic approach to things. Like how are you in the current time frame?
Yeah.
Is my
And the
mind very
interpretation.
minimalistic, right?
Yeah.
Is it very crazy? Am I decorating the page? Like it's all
Yeah.
based on reality. You know what I mean? People just don't always have that perception.
Yeah. And I think a big part of it is also, to your point of what are you feeling in that moment? What is that evoking for you? Are you feeling
Yeah.
nostalgic? Because that might then, be interpreted different. Like for me, I'm feeling very much like for Creative Camp, I've been posting a lot of stuff that feels very like scrapbook like, right? So
Yeah.
like lots of cutout stuff and like reminding me of like, oh yeah, back in high school, I used to love to make like scrapbooks and
Exactly.
photo albums. And I'm like, I want my posts to feel like that. I
Yeah.
want this kind of nostalgia feeling um,
Yeah.
to come through. And other people are just like, that looks like a hot mess.
And that may be a thing. Like I remember looking over a graphic designer shoulder last week and being like, why? You know what I mean? Like she goes, oh, you don't like it? And I'm like, it's not that I don't like it, it's not for me to like. Number one, you are using my images, that's fine, whatever. But like, just why? And then she gave me her response and I'm
Yeah,
like,
like where's this coming from?
right, that's all. Like I didn't, I told her racist, like, dude, people are gonna like your work and people won't like your work. It's not like don't ever take it from like a bad place. You know what I mean? Like I'm just asking why. Like, and again, it's not for me to like. It's for the company. Those people, CMO, whatever, they have to like it. So yeah, I think that's the biggest takeaway is that like the stuff that you like is not always the things that the company needs.
And I think that's why it's important, one, to have ownership over your work so then you get to display it how you want. Um,
Yes.
and I think it's really interesting to talk to different people who've worked for different in-house, you and I have had several conversations, but you've also have told me stories about other photographers that work for other organizations. A friend of mine works for iHeart and like he made sure that his contract, basically he owns the copyright, right? They
Yeah.
get to use the photo, but it's like at the end of the day, he wants to be able to make that book or he wants to be able to show his work in the way that he wants it to be seen. Again, like not for him to decide how they post it or what graphics they put on it, but he's like, at the end of the day, like if I want to share that work or I want to make that portfolio or I want to make that coffee table book, like
Yeah.
I want it to have my point of view.
Yeah, and that's, sometimes you are given that freedom to do so. Like, you may be talking to the director of social and you're like, "Hey, I have this ideal and this is how I see this laid out," right? And sometimes they take it from how I created it. You
Right.
know what I mean? But more times than none, you have to have that conversation and you have to understand that it may not happen every time, but if there's a cadence once a month, twice a month, whatever it may be,
Yeah.
can we just add a little bit of flavor, you know, from your photographer or from your videographers, you know what I mean? Like the never before seen shots, can wrap that up, put it in a bow and, kind of
Right.
release it once a month. You know what I mean? Like, is that a possibility?
Yeah. And I
So,
think part of that is the ask, right? The art of the ask.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Yeah. And I think one of the things that you have said this multiple times, it's you see a story a certain way. I think photographers, video or stills, right? You see a story a certain way, you see it unfolding a certain way. But if you're just handing those images over to the editor or, your graphic design team, your social team, your marketing team, and you're not saying to them like, "Hey, just so you know, like I saw the story like this, take it or
yeah,
leave it." Like they're never going to know if you don't tell them.
yeah.
They may never see the story that way.
But then also, here's a question that was asked to me was like, oh, do they tell you what they need or X, Y, and Z? And I said, no. I mean, I talked to them and I basically have told them, this is why I shoot like this, and this is why I'm giving this image to you like this. Because a lot of times what you have is people's style. There's nothing wrong with having a style for your personal accounts. If a team does not want your style, because sometimes it can be a little bit, too clarified or like
Right, too
very like
contrasty.
yes,
Yeah.
that can throw off the graphics department. You know what I mean? How do you edit on top of that? Now most of them are
Right.
professionals and have done it before, but I like to give them a clean image
Right, like a
so
clean
that
edit.
then they can add their filter or whatever their graphic overlay to it. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
they can turn it into what they need to turn it into.
Of course. I mean, look, at the end of the day, the Pistons are a brand. There is a brand
Yeah.
aesthetic, whether it's, hard pressed or loose, there is a brand aesthetic to the team and the
Yep.
graphic team and the marketing team and all the people that work under brand and creative. Like that's your job, is to convey that same brand. And so there might be a campaign, like you were saying, like this campaign might be about spotlight. Um, but at the same time, like it still has to feel like a
Yeah.
team.
Yeah. Yeah. So like that's why like I'm a small part of the unified project. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it gets passed on, right? Then it gets approved. Or it doesn't get approved. Then it gets sent to the printer. You know what I mean? There's all the big or all these steps in the process that have to happen. So
Yeah. Well, with that, we have to let you go to work. I mean, you got to go be part of the process. Amanda, this has
yeah.
been so fun. It's such a nice peek behind the curtain of what happens on a team and the different layers that are at play and the different levers that need to be pulled and, where your role kind of bleeds over into other roles. And I'm really
Yeah.
excited to see also just how you continue to push that skill and that idea of wanting to step more into the art director role. I think is really exciting. And for those out there, if you have advice for Amanda or you're open to having a conversation with her, if you're an AD or CD out there, hit her up. Her contact information will be in the show notes just to make it a little bit easier. And
Please do. Any advice would help. If anybody's looking for an art director for a contract project or anything like that, yo.
well, now you know who to call. I'll put you on speed dial. Uh, this has been so great. I'm going to put the fire out for now and we'll stoke it again next week. Thanks so much, Amanda.
Awesome. Thank you.
What a ride. Amanda pulled back the curtain on what it really looks like to work as a photographer in pro sports. The pressure, the growth, the storytelling, the deep commitment to opening doors for others. If you're out there trying to find your lane or build your career, take Amanda's lead. Stay curious, keep learning, and bring people with you. I need to put the fire out for now, but the conversation doesn't have to end here. Join us over at Instagram at creativecamp.pro. Share your takeaways, tag us in your stories, tell us what part of Amanda's journey hit home for you. If you'd like to support the show, you could buy us a coffee. Yeah, you can sign up for our newsletter. Links are in the show notes. And as you know, we'll stoke the fire again real soon, and I will see you next week. Until then, keep creating, keep connecting, and I'll see you at the campfire next time.